Hey, welcome to another Typology interview. We have Karin. Hi, Karin.
Hi, Benjamin.
How's it going?
Good to actually talk to you. I've seen you talk to so many people at this point,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's nice to be interfacing with you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Yeah, for sure. I'm also pretty excited because I know your type a little bit. You're INFJ, I guess,
Yeah, right. And
in some
Myers-Briggs.
form.
And
Right.
do you want me to
No,
talk
no, no, we'll talk
about?
about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it. So, but
Okay.
what's interesting is like we're also on the same coin, like we've got the same functions. So it's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm curious about to compare notes with you as well.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So, do you want to start maybe with your history and typology a little bit? Where you got started? What time?
Sure. Well, so back when I was in my 20s, I was exposed to mainly Myers-Briggs, a few, never the official test, but a few unofficial tests. And I would take them throughout those years, and it never struck me as anything worthy of pursuing more deeply because
Okay.
I think it's because I wasn't typed accurately. So the information I was getting back was I was always answering the questions as to get the results for an extrovert to begin with.
Oh,
um, and always a extrovert, always a feeler. I think
right.
the intuition and sensing would differ, and the
Really?
judging and perceiving would differ sometimes. Yeah. So, but that's kind of the mode I was in those early years, college years, and whatnot. Anyway, I did live a much more extroverted lifestyle back then,
Right.
and then
Are you blast
so
play as well?
no blast
No.
sleep,
Blast
but
sleep.
um,
And then
yeah,
what's your third play?
consume. No, I no
Consume. So
that is
yeah, so
last.
that's not extroverted. Okay. That's like
No, it's not. But
that's the most introverted an INFJ can be.
well, unless you're a jumper, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Sleep, sleep. Well,
Yeah.
sleep
Yeah.
consume. It could be sleep consume. There's
So
some
yeah, but you would
saying
have been like blast, you have to have blast first as a like a standard INFJ and then
exactly.
yeah, right.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So, but this is where I think. Do you study other systems as well, like the Enneagram? Is that something that you've?
A little bit. I'm not too big in the Enneagram, but
Okay.
I'll look into it at some point for sure.
Okay. Well, I think this is one of my areas of interest is seeing how other systems overlay with each other to
Right.
fit the types. And so you can have, for me, INFJ, but Enneagram 2 brings out a lot of that. Enneagram 2 and FE can be confused for each other,
I
strong
see.
FE.
Okay.
And so that brings out that FE, but I find, and this was helpful when Dave was explaining it to me, that chaos from the tribe is what drains me. So if I
Okay.
can anticipate what's going on with people and energy levels, I'm good, and I can pace myself where I know what's needed.
Right.
But anytime that where life is feeling chaotic, like it is when you're a parent of young children, you can't anticipate very well what you're going to need for them.
Right.
That's where it's tough. And so that's when I became a parent is when I started to realize how introverted I was, and how only recently have been able to put the words to it of the play last and what's going on with that, and
Right.
why I was able to be a lot more extroverted in younger years, and now I keep myself pretty secluded, actually, as
Yeah.
far as people
What
go. Yeah.
so what type did you think you were before you joined OP and then what type did you think you were before you got typed?
Well, so when I came back to typology, it was about 4 years ago,
Oh, okay.
and immediately I spotted myself as an INFJ, and it
Oh,
wasn't in a
nice.
sophisticated method at all. It was in this. So I was looking for a new doctor at the time, and I had put out a query to some friends and acquaintances asking for recommendations. And one person came back saying, "My doctor's great, type A personality." And that was the little piece that started me, because I was thinking, I'm not sure if type A is going to be a great fit for me. So I quickly, in a search, ended up in Myers-Briggs land.
Right.
Um, and so all I was doing was looking at the dichotomies, the explanation, descriptions of extrovert, introvert, sensing, intuitive, that whole that.
Okay. Yeah.
And all I was doing was I read the short descriptions and I was picking out the 4 letters that seemed like it made the most sense to me
Right.
at the time, which was INFJ. So it wasn't actually anything official with the test. And then reading the descriptions, it was much more meaningful to me at that point.
With the description.
The
Okay.
whole system was much more meaningful. And then that's when I pretty quickly got into the layer of studying the cognitive functions. And so yeah, actually, being typed accurately makes a difference.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
interest level even, So
Yeah, and it's really cool that OP like got the same type as well. So
yeah, they did. In fact, we were very close. We only had we were one click off as far as my
oh,
typing in their system and how they saw me.
awesome.
So
That's really high. Yeah.
yeah, it was, I mean, that was encouraging to me because I was wondering how off my self-perception was,
Right.
So
Wow.
so that was encouraging to me to see that I was at least seeing myself in a similar way that other people read me as well.
Nice.
So
Yeah. Okay, so what about let's start with your functions. Your NI, I guess, is your first function. Is it masculine or feminine?
yeah, so that's the one difference is
Right.
they typed me with masculine and I was thinking I have feminine. So I'm still sitting with that difference,
Okay.
trying to understand it.
So let's talk about it then. Just how it like, regardless of modality, how do you see it express itself in your life? And
Well, this is where I think it's hard to talk about your first function,
yeah,
putting words to it because
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's a lot of your
Especially
human knowledge.
NI is the one thing that detests being it detests words and it detests definitions and things like that, right?
Is that could be? I've never heard of that, but yeah, I'll have
Yeah.
to sit with it for a little bit and see if that makes sense with me. Well, I mean, puzzling is something that I am doing all the time. Most often, the
In
puzzles
your
I'm trying to
sleep.
figure out are regarding people.
Okay.
So, and I think that's where the NI and the FE are combining together, and the TI is really working there as well.
Yeah,
But
very much. Yeah.
reading people and trying to understand them and putting the puzzle together of how they're different, how they're similar, how these social interchanges we have and what the meaning is underneath all of that. And so that's been with me, I would say, back to childhood,
Right.
although
Yeah. Right.
I didn't know how to even wasn't aware of noticing what was going on back then.
Right.
That
Would,
was
would you
something I
would you
thought was,
also like maybe test how people would react to certain things and just out of curiosity in that way, or is that something that wasn't really you?
yeah, no, because that's, I mean, the Effie is feminine.
Right.
So it's much more receptive to what other people are doing rather than
So
trying to
rather than
put,
pushing on them, okay.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I just for context, I want to remember. So at least in the OP system, you were typed TISE,
Right.
consume, play, blast,
Yep.
sleep blast. Is that
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and what about the sexuals, the modalities?
MF.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
so the same as you?
Well,
The
no,
same
but
as you typed
that's
yourself.
how I type myself. Yeah, I
Right.
type myself like that. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, your FE is feminine as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I think because of that, that's that whole. I maybe as I'm getting older, it's and have a lot more confidence in myself. In that internal identity has grown much more strongly
Right.
in the
Okay.
last 10 years, then I feel more comfortable doing some playful pushing like that. But
Okay.
yeah, and maybe that's actually the key too, is that is playful to do that, right? To be kind of pushing the
A little bit.
buttons to
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
what's going to happen
To predict
and
it, I guess. Yeah. Do you find that you're good at
Or testing. Are
predicting,
you saying predicting or testing?
testing the waters to see what'll happen so that maybe you know next time as well? But like, I guess predicting is just from observing, you can get predictions as well. Like, are you good at predicting what happens with people, or
I
how situations play out?
I think so,
Right.
comparatively. And that
Comparatively.
was something I wasn't aware that I was perhaps a little more skilled at that than other people until the last few years. It
Okay.
just, yeah. Um, but I do make calls about things,
Right.
and this is where I am wondering about the whole piece of the masculine intuition, because Dave and Shan describe it as being like a freight train, and I'm trying to understand how that
The
makes sense
intuition.
for
Well,
myself.
it would mean more that your intuition is less fluid. It's more solid. It's more structured.
Okay, but very driven in one direction and hard to stop. That's how I interpret
Yeah.
that language?
I think that's the sensory. It's more, if your sensory is masculine, then that's really what happens, is that you're hard to stop. Like, okay, let's put it this way. Like, okay, so when you predict things that are going to happen, right? Do you predict like how you should act and how you should get involved, or do you predict it more like you're out of the situation and you're just seeing what'll happen and play out without you?
Oh, definitely
How you
how I
should.
should get involved, and how I should even preempt things from happening if I don't like the direction that it's going. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And is it always easy to actually, once you make this understanding that how you have to act, is it easy for you to go and do it once you've decided that you have to do that or not?
Yeah, I would say most of the time, yes. If I if I am feeling solid in the path I need to take, then the actions are pretty easy for me to bring along.
Right.
But if there's uncertainty there, then that's hard.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. What about with you? How does NI play out for you in that way? Okay, so it's
Uh
feminine. So that might be, maybe that's a difference, but
and I for me is just really more like a conceptual understanding of things. Like, I don't know, in a, like, say I'm learning a piece of physics or something like that. So I'll I'll get a conceptual understanding, and sort of I'll have more of like that balance between NI and SE, really, where like I'll see how one is dependent on the other, how they play together. And and my NI, really, if it doesn't match the SE, I'm always, I guess it should be the same for you. If your NI doesn't actually predict properly, then you have to, or it doesn't actually work with the SE, then you have to go back and rework your concepts in some way.
yes, absolutely. And that's been something that has driven me crazy.
Right. Because it's
I,
masculine and you don't want to rework them. Like you,
well, yeah, well, because there's something there that seems so sure,
right. Okay.
and yet the real world feedback you're getting is not lining up.
Right.
And yeah, so that's that. So, this is another thing I wanted to ask you about, because, in Myers-Briggs lands, it's called the loop, the dominant
The
tertiary loop or whatever. So you
right.
and I have the same loop. I know that OP, uh, they look at that differently, but that's where I get stuck in that internal world, because I have to, and that's that puzzling
The
that
TINI, the
that
sleep.
I'm guessing you do as well. So
Right.
I'm curious, actually, 'cause I'm curious how that is similar for us
Right.
IST INFJs, and how it's different, the that looping, or just the internal world that we're
The
doing
sleep.
there.
Yeah. You're so okay. So sleep, like, you're aware of your TI and your identity, I guess. Like, do you
Mhm.
use it often, your TI?
Nowadays, yes, but that's
Yeah.
that's grown greatly in the last 10 years. So
Right.
I wasn't in touch with it really before that. Well,
Okay.
I wasn't aware of being in touch with it. I just
It's a masculine TI, I guess, and it should be double activated for you.
yes, yeah.
Right.
And but it's single activated for you. Is that right? It's your
Yeah,
lead
yeah,
function. You're still sitting with that. Is that right?
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
my problem is sleep before blast. That's like the biggest problem I have at the moment. It's like I don't think I can't see myself as blast before sleep. It just doesn't make any sense that I would talk before I introspected and, you know, really went over the subject. It just would never happen. So
Okay.
that for me is really throwing me off. But other than that, like I have access, like everyone does all the animals. So like you do play,
Right.
and right now is a great example of play. Like it should be really
Mhm.
draining, and I really appreciate that you're doing it. But like this should
Well,
be.
it's not draining because
Yeah.
the subject matter is so interesting to me.
Okay, all right.
And this is where it was helpful when Dave and Shannon were describing the play last. It really is the feeling of chaos that is so draining.
Right, and
Chaos
expending energy for the
from other
tribe,
people. Yeah,
but
chaos.
expending it for yourself. Okay.
Right. So this is and also I've oriented my day, my calendar to be able to do this and be in a
Right.
good state to do this. So
Nice.
also I didn't show up drained, so that
Right.
helped. But
So
no, interacting with people, I really love it. I do it, and
okay.
especially if it's on a topic that I enjoy,
I see.
I'll be
Okay.
enlightened by it. So
Cool. And can you sustain it for a long period of time as well, or is it something that you
if
need
I'm
to?
enjoying it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, about the sleep, I see the sleep for me more as a sleep as well between NI and SE. It's not really a sleep that is for my FE or for my TI. It's more for just, you know, comparing. I guess it's lots of concepts. It's comparing two concepts with each other, or comparing a concept to some sort of thing that happened to me during the day, like some sort of, I don't know, some sort of data point from the world, and seeing if the data point matches the concept, or and trying to get down lower and lower, like like the feeling of success and sleep for me is when two concepts fit together and they
Yes.
match. Yeah, and then you get to go, and because they fit together they join, and then it just becomes one concept, and it's just like, oh yeah, great, now I need to remember less concepts, something like that.
Yes. Okay, so it sounds like you're seeking closure as well. Would you say that though? Because if you're
Yeah,
gathering
maybe.
or organized, I wonder how different that is for you. Because I'm certainly seeking closure. I'm wanting closure to that puzzle I have going on in my mind.
Right, right. Yeah. So okay, that might be a difference because mine is feminine, or more feminine than yours at least. Because like I do seek that closure, but once it's closed, it's still open for me. You know what I mean? It's not like, okay, that's it, it's set in
Okay, can
stone.
you say more about that? What does that mean?
Like, okay, so like you get that pattern, you get that concept or whatever. For me, it's not set in stone. It's not like it can still change at any moment. It's like it's
And
something.
are you open? Are you welcoming of change, or would that be difficult to accept
Yeah,
change?
yeah, welcoming of change as well. Yeah.
Okay, so
'Cause-
that's a difference, I would say. Because
exactly.
for
Yeah.
me, I know it could some new piece of information could come in and change it for me,
And it would devastate
but
you. Or
so I guess it would depend on what the material is, right?
right.
But I'm not seeking that out, and I wouldn't say I
Right.
would
Okay.
be open to it, but
Okay.
it's going to bother me if something comes in and doesn't fit. So I'm
Right.
going to have to go back and repuzzle
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
if it doesn't fit. So that maybe that is the difference between you and I. If you actually are,
Right.
would
Feminine.
you say that you're excited about a new piece of information that comes in and shakes up your?
No, I wouldn't say excited. Like I'm like you, that like I don't like my worldview shaken up, but then at the same time, if a new piece of information does shake it up, then it is kind of a little bit exciting, because it's like, oh, maybe there's yeah, maybe there's, I can work on it more. Like, yeah, because the puzzling itself is fun for me, but maybe it's not,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
Yes. Huh. Okay. So are you, with TI being your lead function, are you, let me see how to ask this. Well, we can just juxtapose it to what's going on with my process. NI is my end point, I would say. I
Your
want to
end.
get,
Okay.
yeah, I want to get back there to a place where it's closed and complete. And I'm wondering is TI an endpoint for you?
No, and actually, I had this conversation. It's something that I actually thought about a long time ago. But then also, we had this conversation with Lindsay and Alan that it's not an endpoint. It's more like a beginning point. It's like I need this down. I need this to work, and then I can go and do everything else. And like for me, my endpoint is my FE, and like I'm thinking that for you, your endpoint is reality. It's getting these concepts that you really have down in your worldview down, that, and then you can finally go and use them in reality and bring them out to the world.
Yeah, okay, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I wonder I wonder if that actually speaks more to how I don't have a ton of outlets for bringing these concepts into reality right now.
Right.
I mean, I can have fun with it in my head all day long.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of outlets for actually
Yeah.
exercising it.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing for my TI as well. It's yeah. It's a classic problem. Yeah. But like that's how you should be. Yeah. But that's like your fulfillment in life is to find a way to actually do that. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that brings me joy more than anything. But for
Exactly.
instance, so about a year and a half ago, I started, because I was studying the Enneagram, I started doing interviews, interviews with people
Oh, really?
so that I could hone my skills of spotting the types and hearing the language and pattern recognizing in that way.
Right.
And I found that I love that. It fits me and fills me up because it's that, it's engaging the FE, but it's doing it in a way that it's in a subject matter that is so interesting to me.
Right.
And so I found that I loved it because there are no wrong answers when it comes to what someone says in response to a question, or if they don't even want to answer the question.
Right.
The
Yeah.
words they use, the words they don't use, everything is information.
Right.
And
It's not a TI thing. Like they could say something that's
no,
completely not logical or not correct, but it's the way they say it that's what you're saying?
yeah, it's all information. It's
Right.
all telling you something.
Okay.
And I'm still trying to exercise that in OP, and it's a little bit it's a little more challenging, I would say, because at least when I compare my results for typing to Dave and Shan's,
Right.
and I've wondered if that could be in part due to the difference in the decider functions that we're using.
It's
Because our
also
brains read a little
practice.
differently than they are, perhaps. Yes,
Yeah.
practice, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Because
as far as that, everything is information, and it seems to me that they use that as well. That idea, it doesn't actually matter. So for my typing video, I chose not to really answer their questions at all, and I felt freedom in that because I knew that it didn't actually matter.
right. Yeah.
It didn't matter if I answered their questions, because what they were looking for were these certain patterns and to
Right.
see how to go up. And so if I'm actually showing up authentically, then they're going to see the patterns regardless of what
Yeah.
questions I'm answering or what I'm
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
So
But it's interesting that you say that like it's all information, because like they're like seeing the same information because they're both energy dominant and you're info dominant. So I
yeah.
wonder if that has some, like, I wonder if they're actually looking at the information the way that you are, right?
So, oh wait, okay. Let me see if I understand what you're saying. Well, so if the interviewer or the studier is information dominant, do you
Like
not?
that's what you're most used to dealing with is information. And like everything around you
Yeah.
would appear to be some form of information. And both
Yes.
of them are energy dominant. So both of them, everything around them would be more to do with energy.
So do you think that they're reading the energy people are giving off more
I don't
so?
know. You have to ask them, but yeah, I'm just wondering because yeah.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, that I guess that to see something as everything is information is also just telling, right? That's also
Right.
information. about someone that they look at the world that way,
Right.
or they look at people
But I mean,
that way.
like, we do both. Like, you look at the world in energy and information. It's just what's more dominant, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but you also are info dominant,
I'm
or you're
supposed to
still,
be.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you relate to being info dominant at all?
I relate to both. But maybe I don't know what energy dominant is. Like, in physics, energy and information are the same thing. They're just two sides of a different coin. It's just looking at it from a different angle. Does that make sense? Energy and information are the same thing. It's just the way you choose to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah. From a
I don't
physics
know. I
perspective.
think I
Yeah.
need to bring this down to
Yeah. Yeah.
ST level
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
to translate what that means.
Well, yeah, it's a pretty deep subject, but it's more like, there's like the whole idea of E equals MC square, and you're always dealing with energy in physics. Um, like,
Okay.
anyway, I got videos about it, so it's we can talk about other things. So what about your FE? Do you see it? How do you see it used in your life? Your FE? How do you express it? How?
Well, FE, you'll see it a lot in my language, I think.
Really? Okay. Like,
Mhm.
toning it down. I guess the feminine FE, making things more acceptable for someone else to hear all the time.
Yes. Yes. Or even, right.
Right.
So yeah, the feminine FE. So I think my husband is masculine TE lead.
Okay. All
So
right.
I get to see the contrast between those two a lot.
Right.
And yeah, it's a very different way of approaching people.
That's a huge contrast. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
then also, maybe, are your values more objective values? Do you see that um this is better, or this is more valuable, or things like that, more in an objective light, in a?
Well, so being objective, because it's orienting around all the people involved, which to me, actually, when I take a step back, that doesn't sound objective at all, because it can change unless I'm
Okay.
interpreting the word incorrectly, right?
Yeah. Right.
Because
Yeah.
it can change from this group of people versus this group of people, and what the right thing is going to change based on the context.
Based on the people that are involved. So okay. So you're trying
Yeah.
to
So,
are you trying to match your values to the room, or do you already have, like, how does that work?
well, so now, right, values. Okay, because this is where we're getting the language. It's different between the T and the F. Because my internal identity, which it's hard for me to separate values from the internal identity, even though in OP language those are my reasons, right? My personal reasons.
Your truths, I guess, more. Yeah.
Truths. Okay. Yeah. So, well, this is a curious question to see. Right. So I do still have a difficult time with using the word objective there, because
Right. Okay. Okay. So that's
of
not just
how changeable it is. But
right.
it is oriented to, it is including the including the group, and it's including me as well.
Right. So,
So
so I noticed that TI came in, and it's like, I have this problem with the term used. There's a contradiction here with objective, right?
mhm,
So
right.
your TI did come in. Like, it's a really good double decider which you did there. And then,
Mhm.
okay, and then continue about the value. Sorry, I interrupted.
Well, so given the context and the people involved, I don't know. I wonder if it's there's I would say the question I'm going to, not always consciously, is what makes sense given this context, given these people.
These people.
And
Okay.
so Mm-hmm. Who am I dealing with? And is there a way to average isn't the right word, but
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, this is still
Yeah, I get what
clearly
you're
a lot
saying.
more
Not
thinking to
ab
do here to
not
be like, oh,
average.
look how this works. Um,
Maybe yeah, maybe more statistically significant, less average, like more.
yes, right. So evaluating what actually. So I am making a judgment call there of what matters more,
Right.
and if and so that is where I may, or I probably in most contexts will be leaning more toward one person's point of view or their values than another's
Right.
because of that.
Because of what actually matters more in the situation.
Right. But I mean, for me, that's an internal judgment that's going on as well.
Well, yeah, it's internal, yeah.
Right.
But
So,
it's more objective in the fact that you're dealing with like what the objective room is looking at, or like you're trying to be more in tune with, yeah, in tune with I don't know, words are not coming right now. In tune with
right. Right.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's for me, it actually it's easier to see extrovert thinking, I think, in how
Yeah.
it, because the what works, I actually, I get that. I
Yeah,
get
and that's objective. Yeah, that's objective. What works.
it does seem more objective than the
Yeah.
extrovert feeling, to me at least, it does. But so with you, with Effie down there on the bottom for you,
Right.
and your TI being masculine,
Right.
I'm guessing you approach uh a disparity of values in the group quite differently than I do. Or what?
Right. I think it's not, yeah, I think it just takes more time for me to get in tune as well with the group values. Um, but I think my TI sort of compensates for that mostly as well.
How so?
Like, well, because TI is always consistent. It's not, it doesn't matter on the room. It doesn't matter what's going on around me. TI is just what I find as true,
Mm-hmm.
and what I've determined to be true. And so I can also determine certain values to be true as well, like in order to compensate it. So I do have like a little bit of a steadiness to my values. Like I have a first foot in the door, and then I can always look what my next step is going to be once I've already taken that first step. You know what I mean?
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're saying my values, because this is where some FI language is coming in, right? Is that, or do you see that differently?
Yeah. Maybe you might have also more like more balanced on FI as well, because my FI is non-existent because my TI is there in my identity. But I mean, but I do see myself using NE and SI sometimes because I have that balance. So I'm wondering, maybe you might also have good FI as well with that FE.
Yeah, and that's where, right, there's a difference in schools of thought of
Right.
whether how we can use these other four functions, whether we have the shadow functions or not, right?
Right.
So no, I do think that whether it's combining FE and TI to get that FI, that
Yeah.
I am able to access that much more easily than I'm able to access the TE. I think the TE is tough for me, but
Right. Yep.
FI, or if it's just an amalgamation of the two, because those internal values have grown quite strong in the last
I see.
uh, I don't, maybe decade as well. When I started tuning into TI, maybe that's why I was able
Yeah.
to
To ground your values in something, in some
exactly,
kind of
yeah,
truth.
something that was internal, not external.
Right.
So
In some kind of internal truth. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
but also maybe like so FE, it might not be ungrounded. Like it might not be just based on the room. It also might just be based on, you know, your whole life. Everyone has had this exact value. Like let's just say like murder is bad, for example, right? So
Mhm.
so this value is consistent everywhere. So maybe that gives you enough confidence to take it on as a personal value as well, or
Yes.
just as an example, like it's
Just
an extreme
those
example.
types of things. It's interesting because there are so many things that I had taken on as personal values, probably because that FE is stronger, and
Okay.
then I've needed to go back and reevaluate. In
Oh,
and I think that's probably where when which one comes first, I'm not sure, but when I started growing much stronger in TI is also the time when I started to reevaluate those values that were taken on from outside and see if they still fit
if they're
or
true.
if they need to go. Mm-hmm.
Maybe like if they're
So,
true more, or if they're still values.
oh, because they're still values, and that's I mean
Right.
they're values to somebody, even if
Right.
they're not.
Yeah. Okay.
But um, but can I actually claim them for myself? That's a process I've been going through, and I don't know, 10 years or so, uh,
Right.
consciously going through. So, but
Interesting.
I would, with you being dominant in TI, I wonder if you've ever had to go through that because it seems like that was a given for you, perhaps.
Um,
Masculine TI, yeah.
what I had to go through is dialing down my TI, and yeah,
Uh-huh.
because it's masculine and it's rough, and it, you know, it sees contradictions even if you don't want things to contradict, and it's not very FE friendly when you point out contradictions
Right.
in what other people are saying. Yeah. So yeah, I've had to dial it down for sure in order to service the greater FE goal or whatever. Yeah.
So is there a point in your life where you see yourself starting to value the value of others, and that actually mattered to be a part of the picture?
Um, I'll let you know when I get there. No, yeah,
Well,
always, yeah,
I mean, you do it now in the way that
yeah,
you
yeah,
interact with people, both in video and in the groups that we're both in. I see you do that. So at
yeah.
some
It's it
point,
from yeah. I think it was actually pretty early on. But like when you get enough tidal waves, you sort of notice I can't ignore this anymore. You know what I mean?
okay.
Like, and it should be the same thing. I wanted to
So
talk about your SE, so it should be the same thing for you. Like, you can't ignore the chaos at all times, like because it'll just keep coming back and hurting you. And
right,
there has to be a time where you have to be like, okay, I'm responsible for the chaos now. I'm responsible for the world around me, and I
yeah.
actually have to go and do it, like deal with it. Yeah.
Which is it's hard when you have that do it for me disease
Right.
being there with the play last. But
Right.
I'd like someone else to take care of that for me.
The chaos. Yeah. In the moment.
Yeah.
And okay.
If I could outsource that, that would be great. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's not maturity, you know. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
and that has been a wonderful piece from uh, OP has been stepping into that maturity instead of fighting it and
Right. Yeah.
fighting reality really. And because the way I was viewing life was that okay, this is a very chaotic time in life. I just
Yeah.
need to get through it, rather than that I could actually live fully now. I don't have to wait until the season is over to start living again.
Right.
So I'm
The moment. Yeah.
live in the moment, yeah, which is
Yeah.
that is very, very hard for me. I get so stuck in my head. And I think
Right.
that's that double activated sleep
Yeah.
that it's hard for me to be present.
Right.
And especially with my kids, it's really hard to be present with them, mentally tuned in to what's going on.
Right. Do you find that you drift off a lot? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, especially I think my oldest is probably SITE,
Okay.
and he will have so many sensory, just these facts that he will
Wow.
get me. And I actually, it's good for me because it's growing my ability to empathize with how people can feel with me when I
Right.
come at them with these abstract concepts of personality or whatnot, and that's not their,
Yeah.
that they have to really reach for it. And that's
Right.
how I feel with him. I have to really reach for staying present to hear what he's saying, because that information is so overwhelming to me.
It's
Because
also, it also feels meaningless and useless, I guess.
well, right, exactly, because I'm looking for the meaning. What is the meaning
Yeah.
in all these these numbers you're shooting off to me about these sports teams?
Right.
What's so? But it's to him. It's so the numbers that data is interesting just in itself.
Right.
Although he does he'll play. He likes to compare and all of that, but it's so he's bringing meaning into it, and when we can get to that level, then I can engage much more easily. But when it's
Right.
just the data coming at me, that is very overwhelming to me. So
Right.
I have a hard time sticking with him and actually listening to what he's saying when he's giving me all that information. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I get that people can feel that way about me when I'm coming at them with these concepts that you have to lay so much groundwork for it to make any amount of sense.
You need a lot of
And
sensory in order to get the
yeah,
concept
laying the
over. Yeah.
groundwork, it feels like a waste of time to me.
Right. Yeah. Just
So, and if I knew that they were interested enough, I would. But for me, it's like, okay, if I have to choose between spending a lot of time giving you sensory information to lay the groundwork so you can understand these concepts, or just telling you the concepts, I'm going to go with just telling you the concepts,
right.
because if you're not going to have an attention span for the whole thing, then I'll just go to what's interesting to me to talk about.
Right. And
As long
so
as
that goes
or,
right into your blast as well, like that NI blast as well.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So, okay, one thing I want to ask you about. So the difference between the masculine and feminine of the NI and SE.
Right.
So, because this is one thing that I'm still sitting with.
Yeah.
So the masculine NI is solid on the concepts and movable on the facts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Feminine or masculine SE, solid on the concept, solid on the facts, movable on the
Right.
concepts.
But then also SE for us is just reality. It's just the present moment. It's the chaos around us. And so if we're masculine there, we feel that we can more push on objects around us and push on reality and make things happen, move things in the chaos. Whereas I think if it's more feminine, you'll feel like it's pushing on you and you have to move with it. And it feels like you can't move it. You can't change the chaos. You have no effect over it. And it's what's affecting you. Yeah.
Okay. I do relate to the way you're describing that.
Right. And it also comes in with the fact that it's a demon. So even that it'll have more effect on you and you'll have less control over it, I guess. Like that, you go into the NI really because you want to have control over the chaos. And then in the end, it doesn't always work. And that's when the tidal waves come, I guess.
Yes. Because even the best plans are still subject to reality.
Right. Yeah.
And okay, so the way you're describing that does make a little more sense of how it would fit for me.
Right.
Because one thing I was wondering about, well, maybe this is where I got off then and typing myself masculine sensory, is not actually being clear on what is a concept and what is a fact. So,
Right.
because what I was thinking is, I do have there's solidity somewhere there, and I was interpreting it as being solid on the facts.
Right.
But what I wonder is, what I'm wondering is, how can someone be solid on concepts when they're not actually solid on the facts that are the backbone of the concepts?
Right. Right. So
I do see how you can be solid on facts and not be solid on the concepts, but I don't see how you
how
can
the
be
opposite,
the other
right?
way.
Right.
Right.
So, okay, but for you, you should have a distrust of the sensory as well. Like you should, like if you see something, you might automatically say, "I didn't really see that, did I?" Like you might distrust your sensory information, or like, "Did I hear him really say that?" Like that sort of thing. Have like more of a distrust of that sensory information coming in. And you'd be like, "Well, my concept says that he didn't say that. Like he's not that kind of person that would have said that. I probably heard it wrong." You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so
Okay.
then that way your concept will win out over the sensory.
Okay. Yeah, I need to sit with that. I'm going to need to
Right.
see if that plays out in life, and I'm paying attention to it.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Um, so okay. So what about that play region for you? Is it, like you said, it's okay engaging with people, but like, do you find that you don't want, like, if you have a problem in your life, do you find that you want to go and introspect on that problem and not go talk to other people? You want to sort of figure it out on your own, like, and I don't know, maybe spending energy for the tribe for no reason. Is that also something that's difficult for you?
Yes. Well, now for sure, because I'm so careful about where my energy goes. I don't know that that would have been the case, back in my early 20s. I don't think it was actually.
Right.
But again, I think you also have to have that internal decider giving you that information, and I wasn't paying attention to that back then anyway. So, um, so the expending the energy for people in a way that was the word you used meaningful, or was it matters? Do you recall
Yeah.
what word you
Like,
used
yeah, just using it for whatever that word is,
there? Oh, just
frivolously.
like playfully, just for
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Just using it to make people happy, using your energy for that sort of reason.
I don't know, because I mean that FE comes in there, and it does want to make people happy.
Right.
So that's, but but I'm a lot more conservative now, knowing I can't make many people happy.
Right.
Trying to make too many people happy at the same time ends up robbing everybody.
And
And
yourself.
so I'm a lot more conservative there.
Okay.
So there are times where I will feel a prompting that I would like to do something, and then I'll tell myself, you're going to rob from another area of life to do that, and is that something that is acceptable to you to do? Is an acceptable decision to make right now, to rob from something else that matters, that is meaningful, that's valuable? Then so there's a price to, and I think that's perhaps where that being low play comes in, is knowing that there's a price to that energy, extending that energy.
Expenditure. Yeah.
Whereas I wonder, I mean, do you agree with play being second for you?
Um, I agree with it being either second or third. Yeah. Probably
Okay,
second or
so
third. Yeah.
not last. Okay. Uh, so whether it's a savior or a demon, but do you relate to that at all, where you of evaluating the price that you're going to pay if you expend energy over here?
Um, it feels like I have enough energy at all times like, I don't want to spend it, but it feels like if I go and do spend it, I'll still have more. You know what I mean?
Ah.
Yeah. But like,
That's,
I still won't want to spend the energy. But yeah,
well, why not? Do you know why?
because like, I guess it would be draining in a way. but like I would still always be able to get, I know I would still be able to give more energy at all times, even though I'm completely drained. I would still have more. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I think also the energy I expend is also very cerebral. Like it's very calculating, and it's overworking my TI in order to expend it. So, and that's why I have less of it as well. I don't know if that makes sense.
So you're so in your play, you're still really heavily leaning on your.
Relying on, still heavily relying on my
Okay.
TI. Yeah, yeah.
I want let me think if that's the same for me in my play. Am I still heavily leaning on?
Your NI.
Hmm. I probably most times, but they're. I mean, for instance, we just had a game night with some neighbors a few nights ago, and I think I let go of the NI pretty well there and just had a good time in the
Just
moment,
okay in the
playful
moment.
with people and
Nice.
whatnot. So I think I can let it go, but probably it's probably going to be there most of the time. Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
We
Having
are getting a little bit long here, but it's been really amazing talking to you, and thank you
yeah
so much for coming out. Yeah,
yeah it's good to compare notes with you. It's
yeah,
very interesting.
yeah, and I'm sure. Do you have something to promote, or do you have a final message that you want to say, maybe about your type, or
Oh, I no, I'll sleep on that, and I probably will think
right?
of something in a week.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, awesome. Well,
Well, thanks.
thanks a lot. Yeah, have a good one. Bye.
Bye, Benjamin.